All right, welcome back to another Mental Health Mondays. We are here with our partner, Institute on Violence, Abuse, and Trauma. And today we have Dr. Silsby, who is going to talk about the power of your senses. Dr. Silsby.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Rogers. I appreciate it. I always enjoy when myself and my team come and get to host this for everyone. So we're going to go over today a bit of how you can use your senses, your like touch and sight and all that as a way of coping with difficult emotions or stressful moments, things like that. And then I'll give some time at the end that whether if you're following along live or maybe watching this later, there will be a practice exercise towards the end. And you can feel free to keep coming back and use that as a little guided practice if you do find yourself enjoying it. So first up, I'll give an overview of what your senses are. I think many of us learn what they are when we're youngsters early in life. So it'll just be a nice little review, and then also some ways that we can pay attention to each of our senses in order to find a moment of soothing or calm or reduction of some kind of stress that's going on in life, and then an activity. So if you want to now or at some point during the 20 or so minute talk up front, grab a little snack. So this can be as something as simple as maybe a Skittle or an M&M or a raisin or anything that you might be eating right now. It's just a little after lunchtime, or a beverage. So if you have tea or coffee or some kind of juice that you might like, that will you'll be able to use that for our exercise in just a few minutes. So here are the senses. So we have sight, vision, we have hearing, touch, smell, taste, and your $70 Scrabble word. I actually don't know what that comes up to be in Scrabble, but proprioception is how you say that one. And this is our body's sense or our mind's sense, really, of how our body is in space. So it pays attention to if we're upright versus tilted, if we're spinning, that kind of sensation of floating or weightlessness, or the inverse of that. And that can also be something that we use in the space of calming and grounding with our senses. So using sight, if you are able and if you have sight, using that both in the moment or from memory. And this can be anything that helps us reduce our emotion by visual cue. So the photograph here that I have as the background is my judgment. I perceive that to be a beautiful flower. You might disagree. Maybe you don't like flowers, but I think this one is peaceful and calming. But you can pick any flower you like, or really any other object that is beautiful to you. There are some studies that look at what is it that cues our mind to calming and a relaxed state. And when we see things that we interpret as beautiful, as that we can see in person, on a screen, in our mind's eye, and visualizing that also helps us reduce our stress and reduce our blood pressure. And it can actually be really healing and helpful. So just seeing things that are enjoyable to look at can already be a healthy tip in and of themselves. Also interesting about sight is when we see or when we witness other people hugging or doing something kind to one another, you see one of those random acts of kindness happening. these can also be things that not only the person on the receiving end has that nice thing done for them, but also like a hug would suggest, the giver of that kind gesture is also receiving something. And what I think is really neat is that there's also research that they have found that audience members, not necessarily intentionally, but other people who witness things like that also get positive feelings and have more joy and happiness and a sense of connection, even if they're totally strangers and you don't have anything to do with them. So our site is one avenue that you can take in this information. There are some, I hope that the whole screen is visible here, some suggestions that I posted, pictures in a book or online, the example of the flower, lighting a candle and watching the flame, window shopping or actual shopping, but window shopping means it doesn't cost you anything, which is great. Also people watching, beaches, parks, amusement parks, downtown areas, bus stops, anywhere where people are going to end up congregating can be just kind of enjoyable to watch that go down. Visiting a museum or a zoo. We're so lucky in San Diego to have quite a number of parks, actually. The one thing about pandemic really challenged me to go into different neighborhoods and experience parks as I met up with friends in parks, as opposed to meeting up with friends in a cafe or a restaurant or something along those lines. Sitting in a lobby of a hotel, these examples, I should say, and the rest of the examples I have adopted from the Dialectical Behavior Therapy Manual. So it's the DBT Skills Training 2nd edition. And that was authored by Marsha Linehan, who developed the the treatment of dialectical behavior therapy. And one of the things of the main kind of goals of that type of therapy is on tolerating distress. And so out of that kind of module, there's different skills that are discussed and covered and taught. And one of those is how to soothe using your 5 or your 6 senses. So these examples are in that book. There are more. So if you know of that, or if you're curious for more, go check that out. Being in nature, watching a sunrise or a sunset, looking at stars at night. Also a fun fact, local-ish, out in Borrego Springs is considered a dark sky community. So there are certain parameters that they had to apply for, I don't know, whatever the governing body is that allows for, not allows, but it like certifies how dark the sky is. So there's no major cities in an area that allows for that particular location to be exceptionally excellent for star and planet viewing. So take a little trip out to Borrego Springs. There you go. And then also walking on the beach or the park. See if I can advance my slide here. All right. So the next one is hearing. So if you have the sense of hearing, of sound, using your ears and all of the mechanisms functioning in the inner ear there and into your brain, listening to soothing sounds. So this can be soothing music. It can be somebody speaking or talking. I don't know how many folks were read to them by parents or caregivers, grandparents. I know my grandma read to me when I was very little, and hearing, she's long since passed away, but thinking of really recalling her voice and reading to me. Also, just that memory is nostalgic and brings a lot of love in my heart. And so thinking about times where maybe someone either, whether that's reading or saying a prayer or just hearing their voice, can be can elicit different emotions and can be soothing in that way. Our senses, not only can we use them to soothe and reduce the amount of stress or emotional arousal that we have, we can also use our senses, particularly I had this thought with hearing, to invigorate ourselves and to actually increase. So maybe the moment is not so much calling for a soothing, calming, peaceful time, but maybe this is helping you wake up in the morning and you need something with a little more beat, a little more pep going on, maybe a faster rhythm, just kind of a different energy. Or think of if you're meeting up with some friends or family party or something along the lines. So the sounds that we bring into our experience, not only do they have the power to help and soothe us, they can also be there to kind of like amp us up if that's what we're looking for. Some other suggestions here of hearing is paying attention to the sounds of nature. So it was in San Diego, if you're here live, it was very rainy over the past week and a half. And so different opportunities to hear rainfall. Maybe that was rainfall on a roof or on the pavement, on your vehicle, other objects outside, even just the sound of like the wind as it blows the rain has a certain, it's hard to kind of put into words, but really being able to observe that like storm kind of sense coming through in addition to wind. And something that San Diego doesn't always have is thunder that can come with storms as well. Some other suggestions here, listening to waves or birds, leaves rustling, again, the wind through trees. Somewhat related to music, perhaps singing, although you can do that a cappella. I grew up singing a cappella. You can hum, you can whistle. Not only sounds of nature can be soothing, but a lot of people also find the sounds of city, like that bustling, people walking, horns honking, traffic, just things going on that when you live in and around a city or an urban area, there are, trucks backing up and, fire sirens and whatever else. So, and that can be like perhaps a nice reminder that there are other people out there. And maybe you turn the radio on and you listen to a random station. Maybe it's a station that you like. Another idea is to turn it to maybe one that you don't listen to all the time. That can be interesting. All right, so touch is the next one. So your physical, like your tactile sensation. This can be anything from, and I don't think I put examples, well, maybe some of these are on here. This can be you touching things, people. Maybe your hands are on your lap and you can feel the fabric of your clothing. Maybe your hands are on a chair, couch, wherever you're sitting or lying down right now. Or maybe you're picking up an object. This can also be touch of another person. So holding hands, hugging, cuddling, and other things touching on our bodies. So like the shirt, I can feel what this shirt feels like as I'm wearing it. I can feel my hair touching my neck, kind of how it is right now. There's a lot of different hormones that get activated as well. So human touch, we're very sensitive to that. It relates to how we relate to one another, how we might attach to a caregiving figure when we're very young. That is essential to our thriving, to our survival, actually, not even just thriving, but with has been found that humans do indeed need physical touch. We do need to be in the presence, not just there for our, basic safety and roof over our head and food in our bellies. We do need to be held and comforted in that way. And so we can feel more connected as we are, children and into adulthood and all throughout life, keeping in mind that this is an essential ingredient to existing, to human life. And so ways in which we can use that for soothing are going to be drumming up that particular experience. So first here, pet your dog or your cat. I don't know how many people have pets out there, but having physical contact with your animal. I had a bearded dragon for many years. I grew up with dogs and cats, and then living in apartments in San Diego, got myself a bearded dragon. And even having her name was Mia, sit on my shoulder or my lap, petting her, feeding her. There's engagement of all kinds of furry and scaled friends out there. Another idea here, taking a bath or a shower. Another akin to the soothing or invigorating music. Perhaps this shower or bath is nice and hot, warm and comfortable, not scalding, but hot, and you can adjust to it. You might also choose to take an ice bath or a very cold shower. And that has many properties that will also alert us, wake us up from the day. And interestingly, after that initial shock, sometimes that coolness afterwards can be also relaxing for the body. You could put on lotion, use a cold compress on your forehead, put on clean sheets on your bed. How great does that feel? Drive with the windows rolled down. Hug someone, run your hands along leather or wood. Different textures can actually feel really soothing or kind of calming and grounding, like dry beans or dried rice, different things that have like grains in them, things that maybe are kind of like prickly without it necessarily, probably not a cactus, but other things that just kind of have different types of textures can help kind of shift our mind if we're a bit upset or feeling down or have some anger. And sometimes using our sensation of touch that can actually distract us from that other thing that's going on and put us in a more like soothing space. And wrapping up in a blanket. You put the blanket in a dryer if you're able, or in the sun, and let it warm up and then wrap yourself in it. And that's very cozy. And then taste. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Taste is next. This is smell. I saw cinnamon and cookies and I thought, oh, well, now we're eating. But first, smell. So scent is an interesting sense in that all of the other senses, the sensory organs that we have a particular area of the brain that processes that information. So our vision goes through our ocular lobe and our hearing goes through our temporal lobe. And there's different parts of the brain that process our like different sensory input. What's interesting about our sense of smell is actually that our smell goes right into the areas of the brain that manage emotions and memories. And so if you think about how something smelled from, if I say like freshly cut grass or cookies, even my brain immediately was like, my mouth is watering and I'm ready to eat. Where are the cookies? Kind of like having that visceral, really like ingrained response. And that is somehow by design, most likely an evolutionary, survival mechanism in our brain that we still have today. And so scent is going to be a really powerful sense that you can use with intention if you're trying to, again, like arouse and wake yourself up, or perhaps soothe from something that has been very stressful. So some of the scents that can be soothing are boiling cinnamon or other essential oils, peppermint, eucalyptus, whatever kind of like aromatherapy, maybe burning. Oh, I have burn incense and light a candle, the candles that have scent, of course. Making cookies, baking bread, popping some popcorn, literally smelling the roses, taking time, whether it's roses or maybe you purchase some flowers, maybe there's some flowers growing in your garden or in your neighborhood. Opening the window and smelling the air. Again, thinking back to how the pandemic has really shifted and changed how a lot of people go about their lives and interact with the world. There were definitely some days in that kind of like earlier no contact stay at home where I didn't go outside at all. And there would be a couple of days before I realized, oh my gosh, I haven't even gone for a walk outside. And so opening up windows to get in some fresh air can really shift that perspective as well. And then using your favorite soap, shampoo, aftershave, cologne, all kinds of different like good smelling stuff that can really enhance, the use of this, kind of like lighting a candle. It smells nice and it's something nice to look at. Or cookies, you can smell them and then you can eat them. So here's taste. So here's food. One of my more favorite things in life. I love food, all kinds of food. So eating your favorite food. Maybe one day, and it was just like you've had a hard day at work and you come home and you're tired and you think like, what is it that I have to cook today or reheat or whatever it was. And if you've had a particularly difficult day, maybe that is the day that you really treat yourself and you pick out something that that does taste really good. Then you don't have to work in any other kind of strategy to help you soothe and unwind at the end of the day. If you're going to be eating dinner anyways, hopefully you are eating plenty of all the food that you need to in order to be healthy. And so why not have one of those things be something that you really do enjoy eating? And then you can take that moment to enjoy. Or perhaps drink a soothing drink. So early on, I had mentioned maybe if you have some juice or some tea, some coffee, eating a food from childhood. Again, kind of like the memories of, okay, well, what did my family do when I was young? Or, was there a food that you really enjoyed? Did you, when was the last time that you purchased some frozen chicken nuggets? Or maybe you have kids and so you're buying them again. Or not lollipops, popsicles, right? Gushers. I got Gushers the other day I have a 13-year-old. And so just some different things that I remember my childhood, but, each generation to their own. Maybe you go in, maybe you don't want to have desserts lying around the house. Maybe that's too much of a temptation and trying to reduce some of that while going to an ice cream shop, going to Rite Aid or Baskin Robbins or wherever you like to go and sampling their ice cream flavors. You can do that. Suck on a piece of peppermint candy. Or butterscotch candies. I don't know, anyone else might have had a Werther's. I'm from the Midwest, so it's a Midwest thing. Chewing on your favorite gum, mindfully tasting the food that you're eating. Again, if you're going to be consuming food, we're all going to be consuming food. Do so perhaps mindfully. And that'll be our exercise. Just a minute. And here is proprioception. So this is, again, reminder, this is our body's sense of how we are in the world. Are we right side up? Are we upside down? Are we rolling or spinning? Are we balanced? Like literally, am I able to stand upright or am I falling over? This is how my mind knows where to move the parts of my body. So some of these practices or exercises that can be really great is yoga, swimming, maybe rocking yourself. I'm in a chair that moves. So maybe just going back and forth like this can be is a different sensation than if it's sat still. Swinging, again, things from childhood, don't ever grow up. Going for a run or a walk, dancing, lifting weights. There's that, again, sense of weightlessness or heavier weight. Blowing bubbles, maybe blowing bubbles like through a straw or in a drink, or also with gum. Weighted blankets or tight hugs where you can feel that tighter tension. And jumping on a trampoline if you have access to a trampoline. Awesome. Okay, so now I have a little practice that I will read through. It should just take a couple of minutes. And as I read through this, if you are able to grab something that you can take a bite of or a sip of, that will be required in order to participate in this. Feel free to come back again to this in the future if you don't have something right now, but you will maybe in the future. And in doing so, just notice if you have things that come up and you recognize you want to label something, or it's like something that's good or not good, or something that's about to happen and you're thinking about it, then you can have this recognize that they're there and let that thought kind of float through your mind and return to the activity. And this is going to be slower than you think. So just a heads up for that. And just listen to the script here. So this is an example of eating one raisin. So I'm going to say raisin. You can say whatever food item that you have, and it's totally fine. So first, take the raisin and hold it in the palm of your hand, between your finger and your thumb. Focusing on it, imagine that you've just dropped in from Mars and have never seen an object like this before. See it. Take the time to really see it. Gaze at this raisin with care and full attention. Let your eyes explore every part of it, examining the highlights where the lights shine, the darker hollows, the folds and ridges, and any asymmetries or unique features. Now touch and turn the raisin over between your fingers and your thumb, exploring its texture, maybe with your eyes closed. That might enhance your sense of touch. Notice the weight of the raisin. Hold the raisin beneath your nose, and with each inhalation, drink in any smell, aroma, or fragrance that may arise. Notice as you do this, see if anything interesting is happening in your mouth or stomach. Now slowly bring the raisin to your lips. Notice how your hand and arm know exactly how and where to position. Gently place the object in your mouth without chewing, noticing how it goes in the mouth, past your lips, and placed on your tongue. Spend a few moments exploring the sensations of having that sitting in your mouth, and maybe exploring that with your tongue, perhaps pressing it onto the roof of your mouth. And when you are ready, prepare to chew the raisin, noticing how and where it needs to be in order to chew. Then, very consciously, take 1 or 2 bites into it and notice what happens in the aftermath. Experience waves of taste that emanate as you form and continue to chew. Without swallowing just yet, notice the bare sensations of taste and texture in your mouth, and notice how these might change over time, moment by moment, as well as any changes in the object itself. And when you feel the urge to swallow arise, see if you can first detect that intention as it comes up, so that even this is experienced consciously before you actually swallow the raisin. And finally, see if you can feel what is left of the raisin after swallowing as it moves down into your stomach, and see how the body as a whole is feeling after just completing this exercise in mindful eating. So, what did you notice? Just a pause to recognize if there was any thoughts that popped into your head during that. If they wandered anywhere else, thought about other things that might be going on. Maybe you had some thoughts about the raisin or the object you were consuming in that moment. Maybe it was something about pacing. Maybe you noticed how I was talking, the rate or the sound or cadence. Maybe you noticed something about your body, some physical sensations, or some maybe an emotion arose, positive or negative. And that practice of observing, of being so present, and of using all of your senses in that moment, you can apply this in so many other areas of your life. And of course, you can share with your friends and family and say, hey, next time we go to lunch, I have just the activity. You'll be everyone's favorite friends for sure. So here are some ideas for practicing. You can practice your senses and being focused and in control, or using them on purpose when you're in a good mood. When we practice how we want to perform, then on the opening night or in the tournament, we are going to be at our A game. And so when we're in a good mood, that's a great time to practice. You can also, of course, practice during a stressful time when we really need to reduce that stress level or cope with an upsetting emotion. You can do this each day. Again, the more times you do this, practice makes progress, right? Practice makes better. And you can do this with your beloved ones as well. So family, friends, kids will love this exercise. Depending on the age, kind of how you might introduce that or consume with the kiddos, but definitely having that shared moment. All right. So that is the end. So hopefully you have learned a little bit about your senses and how to use them, and a whole bunch of suggestions for how you might practice.
Excellent. Thank you so much. This was awesome. And I love tangible tools and tips that the people are able to walk away with and practice at home, different levels. So thank you so much. And yes, I do hope that you all rewind and listen to the instructions and really engage in that practice. So thank you again, Dr. Silsby. It's always great